Hi, my name is Shachaf. As mentioned, I'm the Director of Internal Innovation at Clalit Health Services. And today I want to talk to you about the most powerful strategy that I ever had the opportunity to practice in corporate innovation, and that is innovation networks. More precisely, what I will talk about is what are innovation networks, why are they so fundamental to our organizations, and how can you scale the network in your organization. Notice that I'm already sure that you have an innovation network in your organization, but I will talk more about how can you expand it and scale it. So let me introduce myself before I deep dive into the mechanical stuff. For the past 13 years, I've been practicing corporate innovation for a variety of organizations and industries, but before that, I was a chef. And one of the first things they teach you as a chef is mise en place, is putting everything in its place. Now this might sound like an intuitive way to create order in the kitchen, but basically it's a core principle in the way a kitchen works. So when I was standing in my kitchen, in my station, I remember that there was a specific space for salt and pepper and meat and fish and olive oil and garlic. Everything was exactly positioned to enable me to be extremely efficient. And the same goes for the way kitchens are designed, the way recipes are written, all to create efficiency. Eventually, what we're trying to do, we're trying to create a restaurant or a kitchen that creates quality food in a repeatable and predictable way, right? And then I made my transition into the corporate world, and I realized that basically all of our organizations work the same. All of us work in organizations that have processes and routines that enable us to be performance engines. Performance engines that are designed for repeatable and predictable results. Extremely efficient. What we also understand as innovation managers is that the innovation doesn't really work like that. It works more like this, right? It's unroutine, it's not routine, it's not predictable, it's extremely risky. And that's why we're always getting this resistance from the organization. But one of the things that I really realized, and I'm getting a deeper understanding of that, is that we're living in organizations that are designed to kill innovation, right? We know that, we experience that on a daily basis, but here's the thing, it's not a bug, it's a feature. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do, right? So our role is not to fix the engine because the engine works. The engine works. What we can try to do is we can try to a bit redesign it, tweak it in a way that enables it to create more innovation in a more sustainable and easy way. But and what I realized at Clalit is that innovation networks are an extremely important part in us doing that, in us redesigning this engine, and I'll explain that in a minute. But before that, I want to say a few words about my engine, about my organization. So I work at Clalit Health Services. Clalit was founded more than 100 years ago. It caters more than half of Israel's population, which is 4.7 million members. It has 14 hospitals and 1,500 clinics. It's a huge organization. It's the biggest health provider in Israel. It's the second largest integrated provider in the world. What does it mean, integrated provider in healthcare? It means that we can treat someone in a hospital and then discharge him to one of our clinics in the community. We have one of our experts in the community treat him. We can provide home care. Basically, we can provide the whole care continuum for any patient that we have. In other words, again, connecting to our discussion, I live in a very complex engine with a lot of moving parts. Remember that, I will get to that in a minute. Inside this engine, Clalit founded Clalit Innovation Branch, which is designed, among others, to enable Clalit to create more innovation from within. So this innovation engine creates research. There's a lot of research in healthcare, business development with the ecosystem, and internal innovation. That's the unit that I'm part of. That's the unit that I'm leading. And this unit its main role is to redesign the engine, help Clalit become a more innovative organization. And the first thing that helped me realize that, how to redesign the engine is accepting the fact that organizations don't work like that. They don't. Yes, it might reflect some, maybe one dimension or two dimensions of how organizations really work, but it's a very simplified model of reality, like any model, right? The way organizations really work is they work in networks. Now here's the thing. These networks are built out of connections between people, and these connections are formal and informal. They are political and business oriented. They are something that is written in a handbook somewhere, and there's something that's totally transparent. And these connections basically are the way that organizations react to reality and execute. You can imagine them as highways. And in these highways, information moves inside the organization and action moves inside the organization. And that's the way organizations, they make decisions and they plan and they execute, and yes, they also innovate. So what we decided to do is we decided to redesign our engine using our organizational network, because that's the way for us to hack the way organizations truly work. Right? So what we've done is we looked at the engine. In the engine, we have a lot of units, formal units with innovation in their job title, and their role is to promote innovation inside the organization. I'm part of one. But regardless of the innovation arm at Clalit, there's also other units in IT and in logistics and logistical divisions and operational divisions. All of them promote innovation from within. They have two main constraints. One, they're all located in HQ, meaning they're all working top down. And secondly, although they're doing amazing work, their capability is not scalable. We can't scale HQ. We don't want to scale HQ. Normally, we want to make it smaller, right? So what we looked at is we found a model that we found very interesting, and that's innovation centers. Up until 2019, we had two innovation centers, extremely successful innovation centers that were founded independently of the organization. And they did amazing work. And we said, wow, that's amazing. That's a good start. And what my unit has been doing for the past 2.5 years is we've been supporting the foundation of 10 more innovation centers. Basically what that means is we have created an infrastructure that enables truly an exponential growth in my organization's capability to produce innovation, right? Notice, and I'll talk about that later, that each and every one of these innovation centers is located in a different institution inside Clalit. Some of them are in hospitals, others are in districts, and I will explain why that is important in a moment. But we also realized that the real goal is creating a network out of them. That's the real goal. That's the full potential of these innovation centers. Now, I don't think that this is an ongoing process. I can't share any decisive remarks about this process, but I can share 3 assumptions that we're still holding after 3 years of working into building this network. So one is that democratization is the way to scale innovation, right? It's tempting to create a centralized network, but it's not the way to go, and I'll explain why in a minute. Diversity is extremely effective, we all know that, but it's extremely complex to create diversity inside a structured organization, and I will explain how do we tackle this challenge. And last but not least, infrastructure is key. The organizational infrastructure is key, and I will explain why. So let me start with the first one. So democratization is extremely powerful. Now it's tempting to create a network saying, okay, we founded all these innovation centers, but basically they are a reflection of us, of the HQ, of someone in C-suite saying this is what these innovation centers are supposed to do. It's tempting because that's how most of our organizations work. They centralize control, right? That's how it works. But we said, no, if we want to truly fulfill this network, we need to create a democratization process. We need to create a lot of people doing a lot of stuff, not necessarily what we're telling them to do. To understand why is that so important, just consider all the moving parts that are in this network. So we started with the innovation units. We said 12 innovation centers, but remember there are also these formal innovation units that are already sitting in HQ running innovation, right? So they are also part of this program. We have entrepreneurs We talked a lot about entrepreneurs in the past few sessions. Just in the past 3 years, we worked with more than 600 entrepreneurs, either in our incubators or in our innovation centers, and we're just scratching the surface. I should mention that my organization has 47,000 employees. So 600, it's just a drop in the sea. We also understand that there are key stakeholders. These are the gatekeepers of the organizations. These are the business owners. These are the professional experts from legal and finance and IT and all across the organization. These are a crucial part in this network. Sometimes they are perceived as obstacles and they are not invited to the innovation party. But I assure you, if they're not in the network, all of this is theater. It will never work. No sustainable business model can ever be created without these people. Extremely important to this network. Fourth are the customers or the patients in my industry. Now consider the fact that these guys are inherently outsiders to our network. That's how it's built, right? They're inherently outside the organization, so it takes an extra effort to put them back in the network. That's why using methodologies like design thinking makes it extremely effective to create a seat at the table for these guys and enabling them to be part of our innovation teams. And last but not least, external partners. We talked a lot about open innovation, about collaborating with corporates and startups and academia. What I found is that a good network enables collaboration and doing business together. Great network enables co-creation, right? Great network enables people to mutually together explore what's possible out there. And we have seen in our processes solutions that we're developing with partners from the ecosystem, eventually leading to solutions that are new to the industry that we haven't seen so far. Now, consider all these moving parts and consider what it takes to create a network out of them. You can't do it in a centralized way. You just can't. Okay, if you try to centralize it, you minimize it. If you want to fulfill the full potential of such a network, you have to create a democratization process. Which leads me to the second challenge or assumption. Before that. How does that look like in reality? Okay, we have a lot of innovation teams that are diverse, right? They are built out of clinicians and product managers and service experts and people from the academia and researchers and of course patients. These are not necessarily teams that we are assembling. These are teams that can be generated across the network. What the network enables these people to do is create a mutual language, is create trust, which is something that's extremely difficult when you're breaking the barriers and putting people outside the organization internally. And it's extremely effective. Right? So this is one manifestation of what the network can create if you decentralize it and enable people to work together without any, minimum guidance. Okay, we'll talk about guidance in a minute. The second assumption is that diversity is extremely powerful, right? And I don't need to explain to this room the power of diversity. We know that this is the number one indicator that can predict the success of innovation teams, right? So this is not new to us, but consider how complicated it is to design an engine to enable diversity. It's extremely complex, and I'll give you an example, right? So as I mentioned, remember I talked about the fact that we have innovation centers. Each center is located in a different institution. That means that each innovation center is its own universe, right? So first of all, they are different organizations. That's a given, right? So one hospital is not the next. They have different managements. They have different processes and people. That's a given, right? They also have different specialties. So you can't compare a district where we have a lot of clinics working in the community compared to a hospital. It's a totally different context, right? And if you're talking about hospitals, you have geriatric and general and pediatric and mental health and rehabilitation. They are extremely different organizations. They have different challenges. They have different strengths. They have different core capabilities. And some of them even have different local ecosystems. So basically, we're creating a network that it's extremely diverse, right? But how does that look like in reality? So in reality, what does that mean is that we work with each and every innovation center to create its own innovation strategy. And now think about it. If each and every center has its own innovation strategy, that means it's translated to a unique project portfolio. Some of them have different business models of how they create value, operational model of how they work internally. These are extremely different organizations. So yes, diversity is amazing, right? We should do it. We should all do it. But how do you design it into a bureaucratic and structured and huge, complicated organization? Which leads me to the third assumption, and that is infrastructure, right? You have to have an organizational infrastructure to enable all that. The infrastructure needs to do two things, right? It needs to align the network with the organization, because eventually we are living inside an organization. It's not a theoretical exercise, right? So how do you align this network with the organization? But on the other hand, how do you enable each and every part of this network to succeed on his own terms? So that brings us to an action that is divided in two paradigms. So one, we have the C-level commitment of the organization. That was the get-go. That was a decision by the C-level executives saying we're sparking this innovation movement, enabling to create a network of innovation. But we also understand that we can't command innovation. So if we have an innovation center that is practically answers to the local management in the institution, let's say the local management in the hospital, we have to have the local management's engagement and ownership, because without it, there's no sense. We can't command it from HQ. So these are two things that are in parallel. What derives from it is that we have a clear organizational strategy and a clear innovation strategy to the organization. But as I mentioned, we also enable each and every management and each and every innovation center to create its own innovation strategy of its own, right? So we're working in parallel. These innovation strategies may reflect and connect and contribute to the innovation strategy of the organization, but they're not the same. They differ between contexts. That means that each and every organization, each and every innovation center creates its own project portfolio, right? So basically what we're giving them is a very high level of freedom to choose which projects to run. That's fine. They have a lot of freedom to incubate solutions, but at the end of this incubation, once we've reached the POC, a decision needs to be made, right? Is this something worth doing? Is it something worth doing locally, or is it something worth doing across the organization? The moment that it needs to go across the organization, that's when we coordinate the effort. This is not something that can be done locally. But each and every innovation center can promote its own agenda with its own projects, again, reflecting the organizational strategy and serving the local innovation strategy of the institution. What we also did to complement this process is we've created a framework for measurement. Right? So we've created a mutual shared language of how do we measure innovation success, but here's the thing. We also enable each and every center to choose in this framework what he adopts, because he has a unique definition of what success means. So we have a shared language, but there's a lot of different shades of that language in different institutions. And last but not least, we're creating always more and more agile processes across the organization. Some of them it just makes sense to design in a centralized way, but we also support a lot of processes that are done totally on a local level. And sometimes these processes complement each other. I'll give you an example. Some of the trainings that we've been doing are shared trainings for the whole network. So we're doing entrepreneurship trainings, and we are actually training the managers from their institutions so they can provide mentorship and support for their entrepreneurs after the training. But later on, these trainings that are done across the organization are lately after evolve into local communities and local innovation projects that support the innovation strategy of the organization. Now, behind these assumptions, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, right? I won't go over the list together. I just wrapped up everything in one slide, so I'll be able to share it after with the deck. But consider the fact that you need to design processes, you need to allocate budgets, you need to bring in people from outside the organization and recruit people from inside the organization, a lot of workshops, a lot of best practices that you want to implement across the organization. It's extremely diverse, okay, but it's worth having. So I have a slide missing, but I'll wing it. So key takeaways from my talk today. First of all, democratization is the way to go. Democratization, diversity in infrastructure, you must have if you want to create an innovation network. Why do you want to build an innovation network? Because organizations are built as networks. So corporate innovation should be designed the same way. If we want to hack the organizational design, we need to look at how it really works. And networks is the way to go. And last but not least, have faith. This is an extremely long process. Everything that we've been doing so far, I presented as assumptions. We have a lot of stuff we still don't know. But looking at the past 3 years, it's really a journey worth having. So I recommend it. Thank you.